I just don't understand how you can see someone doing more with less in some aspects, but in this one, you can't see it.
What is up, world? Welcome back, Charge the Game podcast, and the Kate hate continues as Jason Whitlock continues to expose ESPN for, leaving Caitlin Clark off of the top 5, but also using her name as a draw. Let's get into it, guys.
Caitlin Clark took Iowa to back-to-back national championship games.
She didn't win.
Kate Martin, but Brianna Stewart, who's on this list, played at UConn with a bunch of other pros, a bunch of other WNBA players. Is this comes down to whether you believe being a part of a stacked team at UConn or South Carolina and winning a national championship, is that more impressive than sticking with your little home school, not surrounded by great talent, and carrying them all the way to the brink of championships back-to-back years? What's more impressive? Doing more with less, or doing the best you can with the best there is?
Now, this is actually interesting because once you look at it from that perspective, you kind of have to switch your mindset. You have to kind of switch the way you were thinking. Like when I first made my original reaction to ESPN snubbing Caitlin Clark from the list, I felt like it was justified because of other prospects or women that had much for the game of basketball in college, to where I was like, I don't think you can necessarily put Caitlin Clark in the top 5. However, when you look at Caitlin Clark being snubbed because of a lesser market, a smaller market, I feel like it's more impressive because I feel like the way that Giannis Antetokounmpo won his championship, the way that Joker recently won his championship, that looks more admirable to me, in my opinion, than the way the Boston Celtics won theirs, or the way a stacked Golden State Warriors with an additional juggernaut and Kevin Durant won his, and also the way that obviously LeBron James won, his rings building the super teams. I do tend to think that that is actually more impressive. And if you think about back-to-back, you took your team to the brink of a national title. And you did that pretty much just yourself and Caitlin Clark and supporting cast. So now I'm questioning just how significant that was for women's college basketball. But let's keep going.
I would argue, and me being the women's college basketball historian that I am, that young lady there in Iowa City did more with less than anybody. That was listed because they won. They probably had at least 2 or 3 All-Americans or players that probably had long WNBA careers if it was afforded to them.
Now, guys, it's actually interesting because I didn't look at it that way. But if you actually think about it, I mean, you can probably just think to yourself, there's not too many people on that Iowa team that you can just recall or remember right off the bat. I mean, without doing a Google search, let's be real. So I won't even waste my time doing that. I do feel like Caitlin Clark did more with less. I think it aesthetically looked good as well. I still wouldn't be ready to say she's top 5 until she finishes her career. I mean, that's just me. Some people already have her as a top 5 in women's college basketball already. I'm just not going to jump the gun, at least not this soon. But she still is, as of now, my favorite WNBA player. She is the reason that I am obviously interested in the W.
When it comes to academic performance and why we should let certain people in universities, despite the fact their SAT scores may not be this or that, is they'll say, the kind of poverty they had to overcome, they had to do less, or they had to do more with less. And so they can see all the extenuating circumstances around someone, and it elevates their greatness. Like, okay, yeah, maybe they didn't have a 1450 SAT score, but, they came from poverty, they went to a poor school, and so blah, blah, blah.
This is actually a good point, because what he's saying is that it's hypocritical for you to bypass everything Caitlin Clark did. But if you were to say that a kid comes from obviously not a good environment, he's been through this, he's been through that, then you guys will pile the accolades on and make this story even more of a sensational breakthrough. But you're not going to have the same energy when it comes to Caitlin Clark, which is why Jason Whitlock believes that it's Kate hate. And let's be honest, guys, these women, they don't want to. When I say these women, I'm going to call out the sisters because they don't want the rest of the women in the W. Some of these women that are criticizing Caitlin Clark, they are former WNBA players. They didn't have the popularity that Caitlin Clark has. They know that a lot of the women in the WNBA cannot stand Caitlin Clark, so they're not going to go against that. It's like they are a sisterhood, and they all are locked in norms, except not with Caitlin Clark, which in my opinion is it's a bit racist. I'm just going to call it like it is, because if this were a black person in an all-white league, I mean, you can't tell me that this thing would be out of control. This thing would be all the way at the White House on some sort of BLM matter, you name it, guys. So we just got to call a spade and realize that, you know, not trying to be nitpicky here, but man, like, it's double standard. It's hypocritical.
That mindset and logic doesn't apply to, hey, she played at Iowa. It's not a powerhouse program. Kate Martin's in the WNBA, but she's not going to be some kind of NBA star or whatever. I just don't understand how you can see someone doing more with less in some aspects, but in this one, you can't see it.
Yeah, you're never going to be able to see it, Jason Whitlock, because what did I just tell you guys? They don't want to be the reporter that reports on Caitlin Clark and boast and brag about her, and then have to show up and cover a game and be around these same angry women, be in the same locker room with some of them. I mean, it's not going to happen. They won't break that bond. Trust me. They could, they would. It's not even like they can't. They're just going to choose not to. You have a few people that will come out and say something, but it's more so the Sue Birds of the world or people in other sports that come to Caitlin Clark's defense. It's not going to be the women in the W, and it's certainly not going to be former players of the W.
Yeah, don't forget the culturally biased SAT score. Remember that? That's first and foremost. But Jason, she listed off like she made All-American such and such time. Then she spent player of the year. I'm like, well, all of that, so none of that matters because she could not beat a stacked South Carolina team that probably had multiple.
To be honest, even though Caitlin Clark was left off of this whatever top 5 list, and let's be honest, some of these topics are just created as placeholders, so it's not really that deep in my opinion. But Caitlin Clark's impact on the game and the way that Caitlin Clark always got right there at the end, and she could never, power through. It was essentially her going against a bunch of angry big women, right? I think that's the chip that Caitlin Clark needed to propel her into greatness. So though we did not see it on the college level, guess what? We are in for a run because Caitlin Clark is going to be great for the years to come, and she's going to do great things in the W. And I do think that she will break through and win multiple championships that will be, more memorable, in my opinion, at the highest level. So you guys let me know what y'all think about Jason Whitlock and Steve Kim's reaction to her being snubbed off of this list. Do you guys agree with some of the things that they were saying, or do you guys agree with some of the things that I said? Let me know, guys. And if you found any value to this video, I ask that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.